I'm so happy today to have two very smart women who are way smarter than me about this stuff. But Kim McGair, I've been trying to get you on the show for a long time. Thank you for coming.
Yeah, great to be here.
Yeah, and Kristen, welcome back.
Thanks, Andy.
If you don't know Kristen's show, Rational in Portland, go check it out. I basically started the show because Kristen had her show.
Oh, thank
And
you.
I was a huge admirer, and I'm still a huge fan. But yeah, I almost feel like both of you were really prominent voices during not only this recent PPS strike, but obviously the COVID school lockdowns, that whole era. And I kind of wanted to start there. Can you kind of recap what you talked about with Kristen on her episode? It was a while back now, but
Kim was there. Kim was in this from the very beginning.
yeah.
Yeah, we were. Yeah, so I had two kids, one in private school, one in public during COVID. My youngest was an 8th grader in March of 2020, so missed the total end of, her K-8 experience. And she was in public, she's at PPS. And then by late summer 2020, the schools were planning to open in like a hybrid form, which wasn't great, but at least we were going to open. And then the teachers union got involved. They had their like death march thing in Salem, and the governor closed, schools statewide. And then in October of 2020, I got connected up with Renee Gonzalez, who I had known for years and years from youth soccer, and two other parents that I'd known from youth soccer. And we started opening PDX schools, which was like basically just a Facebook group to organize for getting our schools open. Very data oriented. That was really our thing. It's like, let's look at the data about whether schools can be safely open.
Yeah. I actually didn't know that. You probably mentioned it in your episode with Kristen, but so in the winter of 2020, I guess or the fall.
Mm-hmm.
So there was talk of reopening, but the teachers union had shut that down, basically.
Yeah, I mean, PPS, you can go back and look. They had hybrid plans in August of 2020.
Yeah.
So they intended to open hybrid like half and half. Basically, we'd have half the kids at school. And the OEA and PAT, they all went down to the governor. They had coffins. They were like, we're all going to die. And then she flipped on a dime because, of course, like, where all of the Democrats' money comes from unions, all of it. So they're just beholden to them. And she shut down schools statewide, which is crazy because a lot of districts like Portland, fine, but like Klamath Falls, a lot of schools on the east side, they were furious because they were ready to go. They weren't,
Right.
They had a different politics, that is the determining factor of whether you were open or not, which is ridiculous. But
And
As
also,
opposed to science.
mhm.
well, I was also thinking probably smaller class sizes in general, I would think.
Yeah, and
Yeah.
just they weren't, they're just, you go to the east side, right? They weren't wearing masks. And fortunately there was such a red-blue response to COVID. And so those schools were, and she stayed with that statewide metric, which was ridiculous. It had all sorts of weird, like how much is in the community. And then she stayed with that to January. And then in January of 21, she basically was like, oh, never mind. We'll let every district decide for themselves.
Okay.
Which was a victory, we thought at the time, but it still took, 4 months for PPS to open at all.
That is,
So-
a long time. So you're saying, because, statewide, I was just thinking, the town I was born in has like 2,000 people. So it's just crazy to think that they have this all-in-one approach to...
Right. Yeah, and different
make any
things.
sense,
And then,
yeah.
Even in 21, you think back, it's like our kids are wearing masks to play sports outside. I mean,
Yeah.
you think back about what we were doing.
My
and
kids were
it's
wearing
just-
masks to run track.
Yeah.
When it went
Outside.
It went on so long. I was thinking about it this morning. I remember that viral video that went out I think it was like 2022 when it was like kids were having like recess or lunch outside and they were still like in these like squares and they're like masked. And
Masks, sitting on buckets outside in
Yeah.
the cold rain.
I took one of
Yeah.
those. I took one of those at Dunaway.
Yeah.
maybe
That's
that's
my
the one I'm
neighborhood
thinking of.
school.
I don't
I took
remember.
one of those.
Yeah. It was like,
Yeah, it was 40 degrees and it was raining.
yeah, and it was cold.
And
yeah.
I took it was live and I posted it. I'm like, this is happening right now. You can drive past it. It's
Yeah, and
happening currently.
kind of went.
They were all sitting on Home Depot buckets
Yeah.
Yeah.
and they were all sitting apart from each other. And when they weren't eating, they were wearing cloth masks.
Or, like,
and I
not
just
allowed
remember
to talk.
thinking,
Yeah.
this is, and not allowed to talk. And it's all outside.
I know.
Mhm.
It's
And by then we had
vaccines.
Florida
Mhm.
in school
Yeah.
inside.
Mm-hmm.
And there was no mass wave of deaths.
Right.
And it just, especially amongst children, and it just seemed strange.
Well, in the private schools, the minute like the governor's metrics covered private school too, so they couldn't open. The minute that she changed in early January of 21, private schools started slowly opening. It depended on which one, but like Cathedral opened right away. Central Catholic opened pretty quickly. I had a kid at St. Mary's. They were a little slower to open, but regardless, the private schools all started opening. So again, right here in Portland, we knew that schools could be open safely. Nothing was happening to teachers. They were all vaccinated because, of course, they got to the front of the line. And that was the part that was just so dystopia for me, was like, I had kids who went to school 3 miles apart. One of them was going to school 4 days a week, and one of them was going to school 5 hours a week.
It's a
And the
perfect
only
juxtaposition.
difference was that one was controlled by the union and the other wasn't. And it was just, it was just shocking.
When
And
you say that, are you talking, which union are you talking about when you say that?
Yeah, Portland Association of Teachers.
That's
'Cause-
okay.
Yeah, because
There's so many that
yeah,
I know.
PAT, because when they shut the schools down, then they then did this memorandum of understanding with the union so that they
Yeah.
could do online school and all of that, and then they were stuck with that. So they had to get, I mean, that was the crazy thing too. They had to get the union to agree to go back to school. Like, why should they have any say over this? But they bargained it for months and months and months to finally open. And then they finally reached a deal in like March of 21, right before spring break. And that was like with maintaining the 6 foot, right? The magic 6 feet that's actually not based in any data anywhere. And then we all knew that the very next day got approved at a board meeting on a Thursday. We knew on Friday that the CDC and OEA were both OAHA were going to go to 3 feet. And the union knew it, and everyone knew it, and the union refused to change to 3 feet. So we maintained 6 feet for the rest of 2021.
I don't even understand like because like, yeah, if you're saying the vaccines were out by then, like what else could they possibly like want? Or
It's ideology. It's their religion.
Yeah, it's hard to say. I think it was our very good friend Leslie Beenan says this, and I think it's very true. It's like all the other professionals got to stay home forever, right? Like lawyers are still home, lots of them. I mean, we're not, but lots of lawyers are still home. And
Yeah, we never were.
like your intellect, your internet, all the Intel guys are at home. The Nike people are at home. The teachers like wanted to see themselves as professionals and stay at home and work at home just like everyone else. And they didn't want to be like the one, whereas like contrast that with a firefighter or a police officer who understand that their job was in person and they're essential and they should go to work. I think teachers and at least at PPS, they were teaching like less than half days. We went to school in the morning. We had online school in the morning, 4 days a week. That's it. Like that is less than half what they usually do. So they want to tell you, oh gosh, it was so hard to teach online. And I think maybe for the really good teachers it was, but for a lot of them, they were phoning it in. Like it was just, they weren't working that hard.
Do you think, I don't know, maybe you don't know this, but do you think there's still a population of the teachers out there that want that like just think, oh, I can do the same quality of education from my house? And like,
absolutely.
Yeah. They like,
despite data and all that stuff.
Right. I think, part of it's just life, right? They want to work at home for the same reason so many other people want to work at home. Like you can do your laundry, you don't have to get ready, you can go to a doctor's appointment in the middle of the day. Teachers in particular don't have much flexibility. So I think they very much enjoy, that flexibility.
How does that square with weird things like the 6 feet rule though? Like why dig in? Like, okay, you want to be seen as the professional class and you want to stay home, but digging in on weird things like the 6 foot, that's when I go, that just sounds like religion to me.
I think they didn't want to go back. And so anything that made going back less effective, like, we shouldn't have gone back. It's useless, right? The PPS bought this simulcast system. They spent millions of their COVID money to buy this system.
I forgot about that.
So that like everybody, like the teachers, the kids in class would be teaching and then the kids at home, and PAT like flatly refused to use the simulcast system. Like we didn't get to
And
use it at all.
What? Because when I hear that, one of my first jobs was I used to film horse races, so I think I don't even
Wow.
know what that is.
It's just like it'd be a camera in the classroom, and it's got that, what do they call it? Owls? Is it called Owl's Eye? Where it like
Okay.
follows the teachers
I see.
around,
Okay.
so the kids at home could.
It's like a live broadcast.
Yes,
Yeah.
exactly. So like, I mean, St. Mary's had it, like every other schools have it, universities have it, you know. But they were just adamant that like it would. I never even understood what their substantive objection to it was, but they absolutely, and again, I think because it made going back to school effective and they didn't want to go back. So anything that made it better, they refused to do. And so ultimately the rule was, at least at high school, you went to school 2 afternoons a week for 2.5 hours. That was our hybrid, and nothing new could be taught while you were there.
Nothing new.
Nothing
what does
new.
that even mean?
No teaching. The only new teaching could be online when everybody was online.
Was that a quality decision? I don't even understand that.
I think it was, again, like not to benefit the kids that wanted to go in, you know, to school. Like,
I see. Okay.
So there
some
was
kind of disparity thing.
Yes,
yeah, okay.
right.
Okay.
Yeah. But, you know, again.
Well,
like,
because
it
one of
just
the
didn't make
arguments
any
was
sense.
opening is racist.
Right. True. Opening is
It's
racist.
And that was a big argument with some of the
Privileged
parents
thing or something.
here in Portland. Yeah.
Well, I was just thinking that this whole time, like, it just seems so strange that, you know, for an educational organization or even the union, like that they don't. I would like think it would be required to look at data today and be like, you have to understand that in-person education is the best form of it. You know, like,
Yeah.
and if there's still people that are like willfully ignorant of that, it just seems insane to me. But
I mean, what they do when they want to do that is test scores don't matter. Tests are racist. Like their answer to anything, when you put data in front of them, their answer is always, well, then the test doesn't matter, right? The test is wrong. The test is racist.
I'm not going to teach to the test.
Yeah, it's not a good measure, you know, I mean, which is like, we got rid of the SAT because it wasn't a good measure. And now all the Ivies are like, oh, wait, maybe it, you know, actually it was a really good measure because grades are not an objective measure and can't be measured across the nation. And it's just like that. Like if you push sort of that, you know, very equity-based group of parents about, well, look at our test scores, that's what they'll say. Well, the test scores are unreliable, the tests are racist. And then it's like, well, then what do you do? I don't know.
Yeah, well, you just see the result of like, you know, I don't know. We were just talking before we recorded about the ranking of education, and it's like I don't even know what standards we have anymore, honestly.
Right.
Like I think anyone can kind of graduate if you show up half the time, and like I don't know what they require, but
no, it's that. I mean, that is the worst part about it, is that we, especially post-COVID, we've just like, there are no, at least at public school, there are so few standards
for graduation.
Yeah, for graduation, for just, I mean, nothing's,
What are they, if
nothing's
any?
ever late.
Do you know?
No, there's nothing you have to do to graduate except
That's
get
what I
like
thought.
a certain number of credits and that you're not failing. You can even go to this like credit recovery thing in the summer, even the summer after you're supposed to have graduated, and like recover enough credits that you can actually graduate. But like we're not even, I mean, I have friends who have kids that had like 3.5 and above graduating from Portland high schools that are desperately struggling at the University of Oregon. Desperately struggling.
You're just put in a poor spot.
Right.
Yeah.
They're not prepared. Like just not prepared. Nothing's ever due on time. Everything can be retaken. I don't know like what favors these teachers think they're doing for these kids. They're not, you know, but it's just become like, especially post-COVID, there's just very few standards. I mean, if you get into the academically advanced classes, there are, but like your sort of normal track, you know, and there's just a lot of like, not, you know, we're not focusing on the things we need to focus on. There's a lot of.
Yeah, and it seems maybe to me that it's like a weird feedback cycle of like, well, we're lowering these standards to some degree because of the lockdowns, which we also took part in and wanted, and so it's just like this kind of feedback loop. But
yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. Can we? Yeah, let's transition to the strike, because this is kind of like you basically got more on my radar during that time. I was trying to find like accurate information. And I don't want to like disparage my old colleagues, but it's hard to find like local news that wasn't just putting a positive spin on it or sensationalizing it. Like I remember they had the big Pioneer Square vigil thing.
Yes.
And they'll cover that, but they won't really cover like parents that are concerned and want their kids back in school. And but I just want, I was curious your take on, because now when I look back at it, I'm like, it got a lot of national coverage. I'm like, this was an unprecedented strike, but they would also kind of spin it in a positive way. But to me, it was unprecedented in a bad way.
Yeah.
Because strikes are illegal in most of the country, as far as I understand.
Yeah, that's right.
Yeah,
There's
I'm just curious.
12 states or 18 states that it isn't. I think part of it is that parents, I mean, I'll say, like, I'll give a shout out Tom Schultz at KGW. I think he did try to cover the strike, and he always wants to talk to parents. Parents are terrified. Even I know tons of parents who agree with me, tons, and very few of them will go on TV or be outspoken. They're terrified of, like, retribution from teachers or having their kids, there being retaliation.
Yeah, and rightly so.
Because that's a real thing.
There was some dirty tactics in this strike.
Terrible.
Yeah.
Just terrible. So they're really afraid of that. I mean, even our Facebook group sort of reignited during the strike because we're all open school parents. Like, that is our guiding light. Schools should be open. And even in that group, there's probably 5 or few of us that are willing to go be on the media, and they, especially you were in local TV, right? They want interviews. They want humans on TV. Yeah. That's how they make their story.
And they put your name down there.
Yeah.
And your title
people are just, I mean, people that I know that advocated, like, spent a ton of time advocating for open schools I would reach out and be like, they really need a face other than mine or Eric's, right? We were constantly on. And people are just like, no, I can't do that to my kid. I can't do that to my kid.
Yeah. I think it's
crazy.
Also, I mean, you would know better, but like, people still have signs around here, but it's like people don't want to be put in that position of like, I'm against teachers.
Yes. Yeah.
And it's like, I think you can be both. You can be supportive and want your kids in school. Like, I don't know.
Yeah, no, I've always said that. Like, I want schools to be open. Well, how is that anti-teacher, right? I want my kids to be in class with teachers. I'm not anti-teacher. I'm anti the union. I'm not afraid to say that. I don't think that I don't actually think we should have public unions at all. I don't think there should be a police union, and I don't think there should be a teachers union. Yeah. I don't think that unions are to protect workers against, like, Ford or, I don't think
big
that,
corporate
big corporate interests to, like, balance that playing field. In Oregon, we don't need that. Like, the public unions aren't necessary. What about
public safety unions? Like, the only reason we learned about the issues with the firefighters is because they have a union and they were able to talk. Or the only reason I learned anything about what happened to the police once Joanne Hardesty got rid of $35 million of their budget is through Aaron Schmaltz, because he could talk.
Yeah, I mean, I hear that. I think there is a role, but there's also, I mean, there is a dark side to those unions too. They do help keep bad cops on the street. They just do. That does happen. I mean, so I don't know how you rein in those abuses. Like, I see a value there, but I also see, a dark side to those unions.
I mean, I think, I don't know, criminal process is obviously different, but I just think, yeah, I mean, but there are lots of processes that help keep allegedly bad people going.
Yeah.
Right. So, I mean, I think taking away freedom is different, and we should have a public defense system, but there's a continuum of, bad outcomes, right? That happen when you have process. And I don't know, I think I'm not saying across the board, but I think in this city, it has been very helpful to have a police union.
Yeah.
It's been we would be screwed if Aaron Schmaltz wasn't here.
Yeah,
we would
be.
I don't know how else to put
it. Yeah.
And I didn't know this. He walked in when he first came on my podcast, Rational in Portland. He walked in and I said straight up, I don't believe there should be a police union. I think it should be abolished. And he said, I'd like to hear more about that. And he sat down and he just started talking. And he told me all about what happened with the defunding process, the ways that the city was working against them, the ways in which they were literally being strangled by the very officials who were supposed to be supporting them. And no one else could talk about it. And then he talked about how there's just, all I do is make sure process is followed. And I thought about it, and I thought about, my labor law class in law school, and I thought, well, yeah, I mean, that's true. I mean, of course he doesn't want bad cops. Like,
Right.
that doesn't help Aaron Schmaltz. He's the public face of the police. So more bad cops just mean more middle fingers in Southeast Portland for his people. That's not really super helpful.
It's
I don't know.
interesting,
I just
though.
think in this city it's different.
Yeah, no, I think you both have like valid points because I was going to ask you, not even if union, I was going to ask you if you think strikes should be illegal, which I sort of
Right.
'cause,
Obviously, police can't strike.
Yeah. Yes, teacher strike should be illegal because
I
who
have heard
suffers from that?
Then the school's closed.
The
I've heard
kids.
people say what you're saying too, like public unions aren't really, but like I was just thinking to your point, like maybe the solution, I don't know what this would look like, is like there are no public unions, but there is a sort of either national or some kind of representative where people could go to whistleblow in those kind of situations. I guess you're not talking about just whistleblowing, but
No, it's just a way. I mean, the public is literally in the dark without these. We're in the dark without Aaron Schmaltz. We're in the dark without Isaac McLennan on these public safety issues. And not every city has public safety issues, obviously. There are plenty of cities that don't struggle with, they're not 49th out of 50th in regard to police per capita. They don't struggle with the same kind of issues that we do. And I don't necessarily think across the board it applies, but I will say I am so thankful for the police and the firefighters union in Portland. I cannot even tell you. I've talked to officials at City Hall. They will say they spent many nights not sleeping during 2020, just thinking about what is it going to be like when we get below the federal threshold of even being able to maintain a functional civilized society in Portland.
Yeah.
And it's really scary.
Yeah.
Yeah, and it is probably nice to, I was in a couple media unions when I worked for the TV station here, and it is nice to I'm sure for the police themselves to have an outlet to be like, I have this barrier of separation where I can talk to somebody and have some level of protection. But yeah, I don't know. It's an interesting thing.
And maybe it just is like a reform issue because I do think like what you're talking about is important. That's more like broad-based policy that we need to have in the city. And I see value there. It's more just in the when the union does go to bat for everybody because they have to, which is the same thing in the teachers union, right? Like they got the teacher at Ockley Green who should have been fired isn't fired because the union protected him, and does protect them. And then, in fact, my daughter is on the Grant magazine and she's working on a months-long story about I don't want to scoop her, but on, sort of teachers that are accused of abuse and what PPS does about it. And it's unbelievable what protections there are in the contract. So there's a state teacher fairness board where if you get fired, you can ultimately appeal up to that public record. You can read those on the internet. Oh, but PAT has the ability to go to private arbitration. The arbitration order then gets put in the personnel file, and the personnel file is exempt. So it's literally impossible because of the union contract for parents and students to know what abuse allegations have been levied against teachers in their school and what the consequences of that are. And then, of course, everything is all the arbitrators are all very pro-union, whether it's police, fire, teachers, it doesn't matter. That's what I mean. But I don't think you have to get rid of a whole union to sort of fix that.
I mean, this is really about political corruption and money in politics.
Yeah.
And I guess the only reason I think that it's interesting to have public safety unions is because we live in a city that hasn't seemed to care about that, and certainly didn't for a number of years to a scary extent to me anyway. And I feel like I don't know how we build back from that. I know that we're trying to, but at the rate, we're just not where we need to be with police and firefighters. Even though Renee's done a lot, I think with the Fire Bureau, we're just not where we need to be at all. And so it's more, I'm just cherry picking here. I mean, in general, I agree with you about public unions.
Interesting, because I was thinking it sounds like a cool story.
Yeah.
Yes.
Putting together, but
I know.
Because that's what I see, when people get really pissed off that there is some police officer or even firefighter who's done some sus stuff, and they're like, why is this person still on paid leave?
It's very upsetting.
Sounds
to
like
people.
the same thing with teachers, where it's this teacher was accused of blank, and they're just getting paid for whatever.
And she had the guts to look into it,
yeah.
And that tells you what a vacuum we have, and what an absolute hole there is in media here in this city that nobody is looking into that. Why wouldn't it occur to anybody to look into teachers' unions?
Yeah, I think.
Well, it's one of those things that drives me crazy because it's the police side people will just have the total negative view, but when it comes to teachers on that, it's all positive. There can't be a bad teacher
They're
out
like
there. Like, it's
untouchable.
impossible.
Yeah, they're untouchable and then it's just like, why? They're just people. And why should they be untouchable with the results the academic results that we have? I mean, and that's what I keep saying. Like this has been like maybe a theme on Twitter the last couple of weeks is like, where are the parents? Like most parents supported the union even through the strike. Like post-strike, the school board got worse marks from parents than the union. School board didn't strike.
Yeah.
And they were right.
Yeah.
They were right about what money they had. They were right about everything. And so it's like, but parents are just like, oh, we love it's amazing that the teachers have this, like, they're like Teflon. It's impossible for them to kind of take a hit. Parents do leave, they just silently leave.
Yes.
But like parents will not come together and say like enough to teachers. And until they do that, teachers are going to keep like running roughshod over our kids and our students and lowering academic standards. Like but I don't know when parents will, if ever. I just don't, it doesn't feel like they get it, it's like, but
well, there's a couple things I was going to ask you about that because I wanted you to break down as much as you can the math, because I know for the whole, first of all, how long, this was a month plus strike,
November.
right? Or a month?
Yeah, basically the month of November. They came back like 2 days shy of the month.
Okay.
So, yeah.
Because I remember that whole time just hearing that what the teachers union wanted, the math just was not there.
Yeah,
It wasn't.
It wasn't there. And in fact, like
they were lying, right?
Yeah, they were lying. They just kept saying the district had money. And of course, let's not forget that who supported them in that lie is, I can't remember what it was, 11 Democratic legislators that had a stupid press conference and said that the district had the money that the district did not have. Like those people have gotten off scotch-free and they totally lengthened the strike. But yeah, it was actually November 15th is the day that the Governor Kotek sent her person in to like educate them. She was there for 2 days. And November 15th was the time that she finally said, okay, this is, basically the district's right with like tiny little variations. We were 2 weeks into the strike. Like we'd lost 2 weeks of school by the time they came to the same page about how much money was available. Completely wasted those 2 weeks with the union constantly saying the district has the money, and the district not having the money. And Julia Silverman's reported on this, but it hasn't, other than that, I don't think gotten enough press, which is that basically they got a 14% raise. The day before the strike, the board chair called Angela Bonilla, the PAT president, and said, I can get you to 14%. That's all we have. If it averts the strike, we'll go there now. She said no, and eventually they got 14%. So the entire thing was a complete waste.
So like 2 more weeks and they still were at 14.
Yeah.
That whole time.
Yeah. I mean, that's all they had, that's what they have. So.
And I think most people couldn't say what you just said.
Yeah. No.
I don't think most people could articulate that.
I mean, it's hard to pay. It's, it's hard to pay attention.
But it's also, like you said, it was not front and center everywhere.
Right.
It wasn't.
Yeah.
The emotional argument that I hate, I don't even know if it's emotional, but it's just like people that, even if it was a month, people are just like, well, why do you care? You get a month off with your kids. And like, first of all, I guess it's not a month off because you got to figure out childcare or whatever, all that stuff. And
I mean, it's like, if you're me, I mean, I have a high schooler, even if I didn't, I would have been fine. But like, if you work at McDonald's, you work at, the food processing, we have some vegetable processing companies that employ a lot of low income people. They work 12-hour shifts. Like, it's so privileged. I mean, I always get accused of being privileged. It is so privileged to say that we should be able to close schools to help these teachers get what they need. Like, those are kids that are home alone because way younger than they need to be. They're home alone without heat. They're home alone without eating. I have a good friend whose husband was a security officer at Reynolds during the pandemic. And one of his jobs was to go to kids' houses and figure out why they weren't logging on. And he would go to homes where there was, like, the lights weren't on because they couldn't afford electricity during the day. They weren't used to spending electricity during the day. The heat wasn't on. There were 4 kids around a computer. Like, teacher, like, that's the lack of privilege.
And it's
nobody
also,
cares about those kids.
Correct me if I'm wrong, but I thought during the whole COVID lockdowns, there was this big increase in domestic abuse with kids because
There was.
right? Isn't that like a common thing
Mhm.
when kids are away from school?
Well,
Yeah.
and that is, I do think that's the one data point that people have trouble, that the closed school people have trouble arguing against. The one data point is it's in, and the poor and the black and brown kids were hurt the worst.
They were hurt the worst.
The New York Times says it. They all say it. The
Yeah.
Oregonian says it.
Mm-hmm.
They have nothing to say to that. So this school's opening is racist thing that ended when those stories started coming out. I know those individuals persisted. Of course they did. And they just used anecdotal stories. But in general, that really shut that down.
Yeah, no, it was obvious from the beginning, but yes, now it's
Yes, it was
now,
obvious
now
from
we
the
have
beginning.
the data.
Yes.
Those are the two things I always think of
Like-
are, domestic abuse and school lunches. Because even since I was a kid in public school, there's a lot of kids who that's like their only food.
They
that
did hand
get.
out lunches. At least our neighborhood school
They could
did.
pass
They
them around.
continued handing out lunches, and they continued
But it wasn't like
doing
warm food. It
breakfast.
was like
No, it wasn't. It was
like
a sack.
snackable peanut butter. It was
It's
garbage.
like
Yeah, it was.
Lunchables
garbage
or
food.
It was.
Yes.
It
yeah.
was. Yeah.
It was. But yes, you could still get food, but that's not. I mean, you have to get there. You know,
You do.
have
You had to go to the
you-
school to get it.
What if you're far away
Yeah,
and you're
that's right.
you've got a 9-year-old and a 7-year-old and you have to work? What do you think's happening? They're staying home alone. Maybe they're with
Yeah.
grandma if grandma's around. I mean, it's just, and a lot of those kids just didn't. I mean, Julia Silverman's written about this too. There's like 1,000 kids that just disappeared. Like the district doesn't know where they are.
Wow.
Like
True.
they're just gone and nobody knows. Like they just left school.
There's no record
Yeah.
or anything. Yeah.
And then the other thing that what we've seen from both the strike and COVID is that absenteeism is up all across the country,
Mhm.
again, probably because of COVID lockdowns. But like we've really told kids that coming to school doesn't matter. I
Yeah.
don't know how you tell them otherwise. And I think that has long lasting effects, even for the workforce. You're just going to get
Totally,
more and
yeah.
more people that don't understand that you actually have to get up and go to do the thing, even on the days you don't feel like doing the thing. We've just lost that grit for kids. And I don't think that, again, I don't think you're serving them. You're not going to keep a job if you don't show up to. Right now you might, because we're in a labor shortage. We're not going to be in a labor shortage forever. And we haven't, like, I think Helen Young says it best. She says we've lost the habit of going to school. And we've lost the habit of going to school in Portland.
Yeah.
We really have.
Well, no, I agree with you. Like we've lost the habit of just going anywhere because
Yes.
people just don't want to do it.
Yeah,
It's like,
no, it's true.
and
Yeah.
it drives me crazy. 'Cause I'm not even an extrovert. You always say you're an extrovert, but I guess I'm like a blend. I can turn it on when I want to, but like I just prefer to be in person for anything.
How do you do this show? It must deplete you.
I don't know. I've heard that from introverts that like, oh, it drains all my energy or whatever, but
It doesn't.
I don't know. I guess maybe eventually. If I did this for 8 hours a day,
Sure,
maybe. it would,
sure.
but, what I was thinking was the absenteeism thing. Did you, either of you ever have, this is what I remember from being absent in school, is trying to get home to that message machine and it was blinking because there'd be an automated message that's like, your student has
Right.
missed 2 periods of
Yes.
class or whatever. And so I'd get back and try to erase that thing before my mom saw it. But,
Yeah, or we'd get the call if I skipped school in high school, which I didn't do very often, but you'd get that call and it always came at the same time. So I would answer and be like, no, she's not here right now. Thank you.
you're like, got it. Yeah.
Totally
But now,
intercept.
now it's just like nobody cares. It's like,
Yeah.
no standards for any of that stuff.
No,
I
I
would
mean,
imagine.
there's no penalty. I mean, my daughter's high school, they did put you can't go to winter formal or the prom unless you have 90%
Good for them.
attendance.
something, I guess.
And we have a pretty tough principal, and he was like, but you know who freaked out? The parents. That's
Mm.
part of the problem. Like they're part of the problem. The parents were like, oh, but what if they're sick and what if they have? And like his point was like, well, the 10%
That's
covers
excused.
that.
Right, yeah.
No, even he was like 90% in school,
Okay,
excused or
okay.
excused, but he was like, that's what the 10% is.
Right.
Like is doctor's appointments and you're
Yeah.
sick. And,
It's not 100%.
obviously if
Yeah.
there's like a child with a disability and has to be out more, he was going to be flexible with
Sure.
that. But the parents freaked out, which to your point is like citywide, we've kind of lost that thing. And it's like these parents are upset. I mean, it's like you should be upset your kid's missing that much school.
Yeah.
The data on not being in school and the impacts on your education are so clear. Why is your kid missing that much school? Why are you defending them? But there's a lot of like, oh, mental health days and oh, my child has anxiety. And it's just like, I don't know. Like the world's not going to stop for your kid. Parents and
Yeah.
teachers alike, I don't know what we're doing. Like the
Yeah, it
world
was a
I live
whole
in, you still have to, I mean, not long ago I had the norovirus. I had a hearing the next day. It was a hearing we'd waited 3.5 months for. Like, I got to go to work. I'm
right.
going to work. I
Yeah.
did it. It was hard, but sometimes we have to do hard things, as they say.
Yeah. Was it? Yeah, I was
Vomit our
thinking.
way through a
That's
hearing, if you will.
right.
Literally.
You know? I managed to keep it together. My client was elderly, and I was like, "Oh
Oh
my God, I
my
don't want to get her
gosh.
sick, but like, we got to do this hearing today."
You just grab a bucket off the side.
Yes.
No, that's.
Yeah.
I was thinking we could have a whole podcast because parenting alone today, I think, is a whole different podcast too, and there's so many
Right.
problems with that. But
Yeah, it's true.
but yeah, I was gonna say this is kind of a stupid story, but I've told this to a lot of my friends. When I was in third grade, my mom knows this now, and she forgets all the time. But I was gone for like a month of school, and the reason was I was faking illness.
Oh,
But the
wow.
reason was is I got Star Wars trilogy on VHS, the box set, and I watched it for
That's
like a month
dedication.
straight. And my mom will ask me today, she's like, "Remember when you were really sick and we did all those blood tests on you and stuff?" And I was like,
Oh
"Yeah, I
my
was
gosh.
I just wanted to watch Star Wars."
I love that story.
That's awesome.
But,
Wow. You managed to milk that for a whole month. That's
Yeah,
impressive.
but the rest of my time, I
That's-
was pretty good student.
You're a pretty
So,
good student. Yeah.
but yeah, it isn't. I don't know. My heart does break for these kids now because this whole strike was after. People just say, "Oh, it's just a month," but this was after, in my mind, like 2 years of basically no requirements, no real
It's like,
quality education or anything.
I think people really felt like we had just hit our stride at the beginning of this fall. Like, everything finally felt normal
like, we're
again
back and
for the first time. And then, and then here we go again. And, especially like, I have every kid, whatever your kid's age is, you have their special concern. But this senior class, right, they missed the end of 8th grade. They spent all of 9th grade in their beds, basically doing online school. Then they had a year that was almost entirely masked. We didn't drop the masks till March of 22. And then they had, one totally normal year last year. And then they have this year, which we had a strike, and then we had a year off or a week off for the weather. And so it's just like, they're kind of done. It's like, just give us our diploma and let us get out of here. I mean,
Yeah.
they've lost so much of high school.
totally, yeah.
And all of that experience. And it's just, I mean, I look at that, and that's when I look at what the teachers that they voted for this strike, that they forwarded. It's just like, it's so selfish. Like, when did adults start putting themselves so far over kids? And I feel like COVID was really the start of that. And it's just continued on, that what we're mostly concerned about is adults and their comfort and not children and their needs, because all of the COVID closure was about the teachers dying, right? The teachers are all going to die. Of course, they weren't going to die, but that's what it was all about. And then this thing is all about, the strike's all about, like, teachers, their workload. None of it was about education. Even the class size thing isn't about education. There's like zero data that supports if you drop a class 1 or 2 kids, it makes a difference. It doesn't. And that's the part that like really gets
Yeah.
me upset, is like, I grew up believing like adults sacrificed for kids, and we don't do that in Portland anymore.
It doesn't seem like it.
Kids
Yeah.
sacrifice against their will for adults.
Yeah.
Yeah.
What was I just? Oh yeah, I wanted to ask you about the $30 million. I just saw the $30 million cut thing, the PBS. But I'm curious, like, because I was just thinking when you were saying just now, I remember all this talk about, oh, there's rats in all the buildings and all this kind of infrastructure stuff. But I'm curious, does this 30 million thing, like, how does that play into that? Because did the raise for the teachers get like offset those needs or of any?
They did. There's different pots of money. In fact, Renee had a big part in that. There's money coming from PSEF for HVAC improvements and some other. So
Okay.
10 million is coming from the city, and then another 10 million from the district to the building.
What is PSEF?
Portland Clean Energy Fund.
Oh,
So
okay,
that's
okay.
that slush
Climate
fund
fund
of
thing.
Carmen's money. Yeah, that slush fund of money. So Renee had this idea of like, well, if we get more efficient HVACs, one of the big issues is these very, very old boilers. Like,
Right.
what's going on I think it's Robert Gray, might be the other one. No, it's Forest Hills. Their boiler is so old that they have to make the pieces in the PPS machine shop. Like, you can't buy them. They have to literally make them,
Hand
like
make
weld
'em.
them.
Yeah.
So he was like, well, that seems like a good use for PSEF money. And the council got on board, which is great. PSEF money goes to a lot of garbage things. So I want all the PSEF money can go to schools. That would be great. But we also need to I mean, PPS needs to consolidate. This is the thing that no one wants to talk about. Nobody wants to lose. Nothing gets parents more excited than school closures. But like, we have lost a ton of enrollment. I was talking to our grant principal at my daughter's on the con team, and I was talking about, I don't remember something. So PPS used to have 100,000 students in it, 100,000. And now we're at 43.
Okay.
So
this is perfect. I was going to ask you about.
Yeah.
I wrote down
that was in the 70s.
Dwindling student population.
Yeah.
That was in the 70s.
Yeah. But still.
So that's like
Grant had 3,400 students in basically the same building that it has today. It did get remodeled, but it's not really much bigger. And and it's the biggest high school, and it's overcrowded. It was built for 1,600. We have 2,200, but we used to have 3,400. And I was talking to him about that. I'm like, can you imagine? And he said, we were just tougher back then. We were just tougher. We worked through things. We had larger class. I mean, imagine what those class sizes were like, Do
we know what the cause is? Like, is it people not moving, I can't imagine somebody with a brain and a family moving to Portland, Oregon, but I mean, are they not moving here anymore? Did they all go to private school? I look around, I don't see that many private schools.
Like,
right.
Is there data
we have so few private schools, honestly, compared to so many cities that have crappy public schools. It's a little weird how few we have.
Yeah.
And are they all moving out of, is it a county thing? Are they all moving out of county? Are they all moving out of PPS because PPS is just so bad and there are better districts in Oregon?
I think it's a mix of all of those things, but it's between the 70s and now, it's just mostly declining family size, right? We just don't. So few people have kids.
Sure.
So few people have multiple kids. That's a lot of it from back then. I think as we move forward, yes. I mean, from the pandemic now, it's people leaving PPS. Yeah. I know people who left PPS just over the strike. They were like, I'm done. That's it. I mean, if you had younger kids, I would have left. I tried to get my youngest to go to private school. She just didn't want to. But so that's it. But to the cuts, I mean, they're going to cut 15 million out of central office, which is pretty impressive. I don't know how they're going to do that because they've already cut a lot. And then the other 15 million is going to come out of classrooms. In the grant, I was actually surprised it wasn't more than that. It'll be more, the cuts will be deeper in future years. 15 million out of,
and this is all because of the declining enrollment. So
declining enrollment, COVID money is going away.
Yes.
And then the teachers, the raise they got for sure. I mean, the 30 million is definitely a chunk of that is their raise. And so
so they shot themselves in the foot in some ways. Like, if some of it takes a hit, their supply budget takes a hit, et cetera.
I mean, this is the thing about unions, right? At least teachers unions in particular.
It's very short-sighted.
The people who control it are all at the top.
They're not teaching.
They're not going to suffer.
Yeah.
It's the young teachers, and the young teachers can't figure it out enough to take their union back from these old teachers. So the old teachers, they're going to push for a raise for themselves, even if that results in teacher cuts, because what do they care? But like, losing our good new young teachers is terrible.
Right.
Like, we need good young teachers. There's way less kids coming out of college who want to be teachers. We should be keeping those teachers. In fact, this is crazy. I would find the link to this. There's a whole exchange between Gary Hollins and this guy, David Schulten, who's a teacher, and he's in this area. And the district wanted to get rid of the lowest step, which would have boosted like first step teacher pay. So basically you just don't have that step. Everybody's at step 2. And the union absolutely refused. And one of the reasons that they refused was because they mandate having a 2-to-1 ratio between their top and their bottom. The union advocated against younger teachers getting a raise because they have to have this like ratio of how much more the older teachers make than the younger ones.
That 2-to-1 as far as pay.
Isn't that crazy?
Yeah.
It's astounding, isn't it? Like, who are you advocating for?
Yeah, it is. It is wild because it's like I'm sure the whole country hears that all the time. Yeah, like people aren't becoming teachers anymore. Like, if there's any future for kids, like we need to support the younger teachers.
We do. And we need to, like, the other thing I think that we need to do that no one wants to talk about is, like, we got to go back to having some behavioral standards in school. Yeah. I actually do feel sorry for teachers. They have a lot of behavior issues, a lot. And there's, like, nothing they can do anymore. Their hands are totally tied. They can't suspend kids. They can't kick them out. We don't expel kids no matter what anymore, unless, even if they, like I was in favor of PATs, that portion of their bargaining where they wanted, like, automatic suspension and expulsion if a kid hurt a teacher. Like,
Mm.
how is that controversial?
Right.
And the district didn't want that. And
Yeah.
the district won that because of like restorative justice. It's
Wow.
like, you shouldn't have to be in a classroom with, and it also hurts everyone else's learning. That one, like, my husband calls it, Johnny fuck up, but
Mm.
that one kid can just suck up all
true.
the energy in the room
Yeah.
and keep
And they
other
do.
kids from
And they
learning.
do.
Yeah, and I am very sympathetic to teachers having to deal with behavior issues. I think it's a huge problem.
I
And
didn't-
actually, that's something Leslie Bean and
Mm-hmm.
our friend who we mentioned before too was very she's a veterinary background but is so well versed in science that just like studied up on COVID and figured a whole bunch of stuff out and is part of a Norfolk group trying to get Congress to do a postmortem on COVID. We're really lucky to have her here as a local. And that was something that she talked about too when she was talking about teachers not wanting to go back to school. And she was like, I get it. If I had to deal with the behavioral problems that they deal
Mhm.
with, that the district has set up for these people,
Yeah.
where they're literally having to teach in the midst of something that looks like it resembles like a federal prison at times where the inmates are in control.
Yeah.
And it really does. I mean,
They've
kindergarten
seen the
kindergarten
videos, yeah.
PPS, kindergarten PPS, never seen anything like it in my life. I mean, I was in there 3 times a week, and then I would pay a nanny to be in there twice a week because my kid was one of the kids coming home with bruises on her body. But I wasn't told anything about what happened to that kid because you're not allowed to be. And I was also told that kid would be staying in there and they would all be staying in there.
Yeah.
And so we were just in there at all times supporting. And when my friend was the teacher, a friend that I had known from years past was the teacher, and she had been candid with me. I keep my radio close. If I touch a kid, I have to do a mountain of paperwork. I try at all costs not to do that. If they're on top of somebody or if they're physically injuring somebody, I cannot pull them off without doing a mountain of paperwork. I have to get my radio out. I have to alert numerous people. And I would watch stuff like a kid, it would just be a regular Tuesday without any sort of warning whatsoever. And this was multiple children. A kid would lean back and kick another kid in the back while they were all sitting listening to a story. This is in kindergarten at an
Yeah.
ostensibly like fancy public kindergarten. Kick another kid in the back so hard, I heard his breath leave his body. And I was like, whoa.
Yeah.
It was wild with it right in front of all the adults.
And
Like
there's like no consequences.
there
It's
wasn't
so
any.
strange.
And then they'd all file out for music, and those kids that participated in that would be playing with Legos in the hallway. That was their punishment.
Yeah. Yeah. It's a major.
Playing with
I'd
Legos.
never seen anything like it.
Yeah.
I was just thinking while you're saying that. I remember I was just thinking how far we've come. I remember my mom telling me when she was in school, she had a teacher that would throw basketball at kids that were misbehaving. And obviously you can't do
Now
that
the kids
at all.
throw the
but,
basketball.
yeah.
Now the kids throw the basketball. There's nothing you can do about it. There was one kid in particular that was just such a freaking menace. And I remember some parent commented, "Oh, he's gone." And I go, it just flew out of my mouth. I go, what did he do? Like finger bang a teacher? Like, was it sex? It was sexual assault, right? I mean, I really thought, oh, it's gotta be. It was legit so criminal behavior that nobody, even restorative justice couldn't be attached to this. And no, you know what happened? They somehow just figured out that he was using a fake address and he was out of district. So that's why he was gone.
Oh.
It actually had nothing to do with his
With
behavior.
his behavior.
Of course it didn't.
Yeah.
Of course it didn't.
Yeah. It's.
So, I
Well-
mean, when Leslie says things like, I understand why teachers and PPS don't want to teach in the classroom because they are assaulted. I mean, and it's not just PPS. Like I know a teacher in Beaverton School District. It's the same issue. It's
Yeah.
that same restorative justice issue. And this is a restorative justice guy. Like this is the guy who I think prior to all of this stuff spiraling completely out of control would have said restorative justice is the right way to go. I completely agree with these policies. And I was watching him after they really went gung-ho on that stuff. It was maybe 5 years ago or 6 years ago. I think it was became just full throttle in all these districts. But he was different every week. I would see him at church on Sunday, and he was different every week. And then finally, I just remember one week he said, "I had a mental breakdown. I just lost it. Like some kid threw a chair at me. I almost threw it back." And he's like, "I had to stop myself." And he's like, "I'm not doing it anymore. I'm not going to teach music. I'm finished here."
I was thinking, I imagine a lot of them have left because of that. But
Mm-hmm.
isn't that compounded, I would think, in high schools with the school resource officer problem of like,
Mm-hmm.
because couldn't they step in if?
So Aaron Schmaltz will say that it's not just that. I mean, he will say, in fact, one of the reasons we have gun violence issues in high schools is because the school resource officers, I mean, they had just won an award when they were cut due to the defunding by
Was
Joanne
that
Hardesty and signed off
was
by
that
city
because
council.
of, and I worked on this at KDW. Remember the I wish I could remember his name. The coach that de-armed the kid that came in with the rifle.
Yeah, that
Potentially.
I guess I don't know.
Potentially.
I guess he was a coach, but I don't know.
But anyway, they had just won an award for excellence, and there were all these, I mean, they had like a book of achievements basically of ways that they had kept children in school, kept children out of the criminal justice system. They would lobby to keep kids out of jail. They would lobby to keep 18-year-old seniors out of jail. They would get them in touch with peer support and mentors and
like a diversion.
adults. Yes, and adults who had, but they wouldn't even put them through the process. They were clued in with the kid and who they thought would respond to the kid. They were clued in with the community leaders in the kid's neighborhood, and they go, hey, we want you to meet so-and-so. It was all through informal relationships because they were so embedded. They knew where dad lived.
Yeah.
They knew what state he was in. They knew where mom lived. They knew where mom worked. They knew where auntie worked. They knew where grandma worked. Here comes little Jimmy. Little Jimmy's so-and-so's brother. They had this interlocking network of relationships. And then when they were banned basically from schools, now that's the argument. Like they can't ever, they don't, ostensibly nobody, I think the majority of parents would like them back. They can't seem to make the argument to anybody, particularly the superintendent, that they need to come back, especially in uniform. And to your point, Kim, about kids just like skipping school and can't really skip life, or like even if you go to, I mean, U of O of all places, Eugene seems like a relatively low-key place. It's not exactly
it's
you
not
know,
Harvard.
it's not Harvard or Stanford. They're not cutting it there. I mean, I don't know how you cut it in the adult world if you don't know how to interact with a police officer in uniform.
Right.
The children see police officers I mean, not in this city, but you go to any functional city, you're going to see a police officer in uniform every once in a while. You should probably know how to behave around them.
When I was a kid,
and that they're not enemies.
I think all the school communities pretty much loved their SROs. I know ours
We did.
And so it was activists outside of the school system that were like, SROs are bad. I don't even think it was like, take like a Jefferson or a Roosevelt community. I don't think they didn't want to get rid of their SROs.
I don't think so.
It was like, they were a part of, they really were. They were like a part of the community. They were they were officers that wanted to be there. And they really saw themselves as like kind of, like the first line of helping kids get back on, like, you don't want to be doing that. What are you doing? They knew the kids, right? They talked to them.
Really
are
are part of the community.
They really were.
When I was a kid, we had DARE. I don't know. DARE.
We did too.
It's just funny because I'm sure now it's like the opposite of like, hey, if you want to start drugs, start easy. And
it is the opposite. The Drug Policy Alliance drafted the PPS drug curriculum. Go low and start slow. Or
but
whatever.
We had a DARE officer, and everyone knew him, and everyone was friendly,
we did too.
and like, I'm imagining that's all gone.
Aaron talks about that too. So it wasn't just guns. It's also like he thinks they could be making inroads with this fentanyl stuff. And he's like, a kid leaves school, they go to a park or wherever, they're buying some fentanyl. The school resource officer, they're usually clued into who the most vulnerable kids are, who's going to be like little wander off, who's going to be, or somebody looks a little different, somebody looks off, somebody missed third period. He's like, those are the people, that is literally their job, to be the eyes and the ears of that school. And now that is all gone. And the teachers don't have the time. The principal doesn't, none of the people walking around the school have the time to do that kind of eyes on thing with these kids.
Well, we have security. They're just private. Like Grant has security,
that's right.
but they're just not officers.
And isn't
they
that
wear
interesting?
security. Like, why not have police officers? If we're gonna have, they wear campus security like coats. What's the difference? I don't really understand. I look at that and like, why don't we have? We probably don't have the staffing.
I was just thinking,
anymore.
We probably don't have enough.
We probably don't have the staffing, but
we certainly don't.
We have campus security. It's not like we don't have it. We do. It's just not the same.
But isn't that wild? Like somebody did an article. It might have been the Oregonian. I don't remember, but a local media piece was about the way private security is infiltrating Portland. And I just thought, again, this is y'all not seeing the consequences of your behavior.
Yep.
You get rid of police officers, we will become
Something's gonna fill
Brazil.
in. Yeah.
The privates will step in.
Yep.
The people with money will hire their own
Yep.
cops, and they have.
Yep.
And they have. Look into it. They have. I mean, there was this whole article about it. The business owners who have the resources, they're going to hire private security.
Yeah.
Even a school is going to hire private. So
Yeah.
now that's what we have. Now we're
Right.
Brazil,
Right.
and we'll just do it that way.
Right.
I actually didn't know that they were doing that.
Mhm.
Because
You think they have accountability?
Well,
they
yeah,
don't have accountability.
Kristen was telling me about how many neighborhoods and all this stuff that businesses that use private security in Portland now, and it kind of blew
It's
my
thriving business.
blew my mind. But yeah, that's what I was just thinking is like, uh, there was a I don't really know this guy, but a coworker of mine knew a private security guard in Vancouver who shot and killed somebody. This was like a retail security officer.
Oh.
But that's what I was just thinking. They're certainly not as trained as a normal
Right.
police officer.
Oh
Yeah.
yeah,
I
they don't go
think,
through
you know?
DPSST for
Right.
what 9 months or
Yeah.
something.
So like,
I
how
mean,
I don't understand how that's
you think they have
better, but-
accountability? You
Yeah.
think they're
Right. Why is it better?
subject to public opinion
Yeah.
or
Public high schools they're going to have a security officer. They're like
Yeah.
schools of 2,000 kids. Like you're going to
Yeah,
have
yeah.
a security officer. Wouldn't it be better if it was a Portland police officer who
Yeah.
was trained and also got like better pay and benefits?
Right.
And that's all
Mhm.
part of
Right.
it too.
That's
It's
right.
like the private security's like that's just profiteering for whoever owns that company.
That's
Whereas
right. And
like
that's who knows who. I mean, we
Right.
have an idea. I mean,
yeah.
most people who most people who understand the private security industry understand that the caliber of people that you're going to get from private security is a lot different
It's like
than the
Yes.
caliber of
mall
people.
cops.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, Portland police officers have people with master's degrees.
Yes.
Many have
And lots
bachelor's
of training.
degrees. The training is off the charts. Yeah, it's just, yeah.
Well, and I was
That's a
thinking
great
that you
point.
probably don't get that community that we were just talking about because it might be a different security
Certainly
not.
person all the time.
Certainly
And
not.
Yeah.
but I was thinking a second ago, this gives me a little bit of hope that I heard from a teacher the other day, a couple days ago. I won't say which school, but I think it was high school. But anyway, she was saying how she notices definitely like kids just don't have the mental ability to communicate in a basic way
Mm.
post COVID.
Mm.
And I think that at least that message seems to have sunk in with almost all educators and teachers. And so hopefully that translates to like a bigger picture kind of
Interesting.
thing.
Yeah.
I don't think I said it on the show, but there's like this couple stats that came out of like kids are bringing their parents to job interviews. I don't know if you saw that, but Gen Z kids.
I had read that a while ago, I think.
And it's like increasing. Yeah. Like they did studies in like 2019. It's been going
Yeah,
up steadily since then. And I just feel like kids, because of the lockdowns, do not have like basic communication
I
abilities.
blame
and-
a lot of the parents for that because I
It
mean,
could- yeah, I guess
every
that's-
once in a while I see shades. I don't see anything that extreme, and I have younger kids, but I see like shades of that kind of thing going on. And I mean, mine have never asked me to step in on anything because I think they know I just won't do it. But it kind of boggles my mind how involved in the way in which some of these parents literally live vicariously through their
Yeah.
children.
When it's
It's
different when
also-
they're under 18, but
Yeah.
you know.
It's I think it's also
Of
that
course,
like
it's different.
Yeah.
Yeah, adults should not be bringing their parents to job
Yeah.
interviews.
I think there is just generally we've gone too far in, again, I just say it's like lack of grit. I don't know what the right phraseology is, but like I use anxiety as a thing. Like anxiety is not, I'm not like, I know some people have like severe anxiety disorder and I'm not trying to downplay that, but like
You're not talking about anything
everybody-
clinical, like a
like, right,
diagnosis.
like-
You're just talking about general.
all like everybody has anxiety
I'm-
now. And it's like,
I'm right there with you.
anxiety
Everyone
is like a life, it's part of life,
It is.
right?
Yeah.
You're nervous about things, you're anxious about things. And instead, I think this generation, and it's weird to the extent it's Gen X parents, because I think we're pretty
Yeah,
tough.
it is
we,
weird.
We grew up tough, but there's just this like,
And alone.
instead of saying like, yeah, that sucks, that's nerve wracking, you know what, you're gonna do it and you're gonna be okay, there's just this like, oh, let me step in, the snowplow, right? Like, let me step in and protect you. And it's like reinforcing that instead of saying like, yeah, that sounds really nerve wracking, life's tough, man, but you're gonna get through this thing, and then the next time you have something bad, you'll have learned this resilience. I hate that word, but that is the right word for this. And a lot of the parents in this generation just don't, they just do different. And you see it. I mean, my oldest is at Northeastern University, and these are like very high achieving kids. and there's Facebook groups for university parents, which in and of itself is kind of strange. But some of the stuff these parents do for their kids is just shocking. I mean, it's just like someone will be like, "Oh, my kid's moving out of their apartment. Does anybody have a good cleaning service?" Like, are you kidding me? Clean your own damn apartment.
Yeah.
Like, what? It's just, but there's a whole generation of that. And again, I don't think you're doing your kid any favors when you just like reinforce this, "Oh, you must have crippling anxiety." No, like, life is anxious. And sometimes it's not very fun and it's
Yeah.
hard.
No, I agree.
And you gotta like toughen up a little bit. You need a thicker skin, but that's
It seems,
just
yeah,
not what you
because
see.
it is. I was thinking about it. Like, it is. Yeah, it's hard for everyone to get up and just do what you're supposed to do every day. But
Yeah.
it just seems like we got to the point where just showing up is too hard.
Yeah.
For
Yeah.
and it's like, I don't know.
You'll see, like, when I say stuff, again, I got kicked off my school Facebook group, or when we were talking about attendance and I would say things like that, and it would just be like, "Oh, you don't understand about, some kids just can't get up and go to school every day." And it's like, sure they can. Sure
Yeah.
they can.
Well,
Because kids have been going to school every day when they didn't want to for like decades.
Yeah.
Right? It's like,
I could be wrong about this too, but
Like 100 years, like Little House on the Prairie days.
Yes.
I remember riding the public bus until I was like a freshman in high school, and I feel like that. I don't know. Maybe I'm wrong about that, but I feel like
Yeah.
nobody rides the
Yeah.
bus, like, or it's dwindled a
That's
lot.
right.
But I don't.
I think it has. I mean, part of it's like safety stuff. Although, like, both my kids rode the bus before they had cars. In fact, my youngest played soccer out at a suburban club, and a lot of her friends would want to come hang out at our house so they could ride the bus because they thought it was like so exotic and
Yeah,
cool.
like, whoa.
But I mean, I do think that TriMet's not quite as safe as it. Like, I wouldn't.
Oh,
Like,
that's right.
I would not want my kids on the Max.
Yeah,
I don't mind them riding the bus. I don't want my kids on
I
the
actually
Max.
forgot in Portland that they get to ride TriMet for free.
Yeah, they get
so,
to ride
yeah.
TriMet
and
for
that's how
free.
they kind
That's
of
their
do
bus
the
system.
Yeah, okay.
Yeah. So, and I mean, the bus, we've always been like the bus, at least there's an adult that you can go to help for. But like, I don't know about you. I don't want my kids on the Max by themselves.
No.
I guess I was thinking, like, what about pre-high school? Do you feel like that's are
Yeah,
people
I
just
mean,
driving
middle
their kids?
school. I mean, most people drive around. My kids definitely rode the bus in middle school, like
Okay.
around, like
Okay.
they want to go down to Hawthorne. That's how they get there. But no, I think a lot of parents really just cater to their kids and, drive them
Okay.
everywhere.
I was just thinking
Yeah.
about that. It's a weird question.
Yeah.
I did want to ask about the smartphone thing, and also, I mean, yeah, I guess we can start with that. I
Yeah.
just have been hearing this happen more and more to states and school district. I feel like was it all of New York, or was it New York City
Yeah, I
that
don't
had done this
know.
or something?
Yeah.
Or no, I might be thinking of Washington D.C. actually, but there was a big district that did it like a few months ago, and I see it happening more.
Mhm.
And I think it's just crucial.
Yes.
Like,
yeah.
I don't know. I don't have kids, but I'd imagine anyone over, I don't know, 13 is bringing a phone with them and distracted all day.
Mhm.
And a lot of people, when I bring this up, like for people my age, they think, well, you got to be able to call your parents like for safety reasons and this kind of thing. And I guess that's a valid point. I don't know.
I think
I just
that's
think it's-
nuts. Like,
Yeah.
We
all
just
went
use
to
the
school.
office phone.
Yeah, we went
Or
to
the
school.
pay phone.
Yeah. And parents are part of the problem. Like, when schools do try to get rid of it, that's what they say. Like, I need to be able to reach my kid. And you'll talk to parents and they'll be like, half the time the kid's texting their parents. Like, that's who they're texting during the day. Like, what? So yeah, no, I think Grant definitely did this year. I mean, I think it's hard to hold through the whole school year, but they started the school with every teacher has like a little one of those like shoe things, you put your
Put it
shoes
in
on
there.
and you put your phone in there when you
Okay,
walk in,
okay.
and you don't have it during the day. And I think, enforcement's dependent upon teachers. I know our principal feels very strongly about it. I think he's going to try to do something even more severe next year, like you check your phone into a locker when you walk into the school. And
That's
you
what I
don't
was just
have
So you
it.
mean each class right
Each
now?
class,
Okay.
right? So they still have it, and he thinks that like what happens on social media during the school day is a serious problem, and it's contributing
It
to the
is.
behavior issues at
I
school.
bet, yeah.
And so he just wants no phones during, the school day. And I mean, I fully support. I don't know how teachers like can possibly teach if some kid is staring at their phone instead
Yeah.
of like paying attention. Like,
Well, and it's also like I was watching the social media Senate hearings the other week, and it's also like big money for Meta and all these social media
Yeah.
companies. For anyone's over the age of 13, you can get on there and
Yeah.
on any platform and really do anything.
Well, and you
with it.
just have to lie. Like, I mean, I'm not gonna lie. My kids were on Instagram before they were 13.
Yeah,
You
yeah.
just put a different birth date in, like
It's not that hard.
it's just, yeah. And it's hard for parents to have control. But yeah, I think the phone, TikTok in particular, like I'm very anti-TikTok. I mean, my kids are on it, but I think if I had to do over again, I would definitely try to have my kids have less phones. But I think schools can, I mean, there's just they don't need them.
Yeah, you
They
really
don't need 'em.
don't, because that's what. Yeah, I'd never thought of it the way you said it, but it's like there's almost like this second version of the day happening online that you can kind of
Yes,
tune into.
that's a good
and,
way
you
to put
know,
it.
Right, and they're posting like on social media during the day,
Yeah.
and all this stuff is
and you're probably
happening.
more
Which,
focused on that.
yeah, which I hadn't really focused on either until he was talking to me, because I was like, I love that you banned phones in classrooms, and most parents were supportive. I'll give the grant group at least that. Most parents were like, yes, that's great. Not all of them. But,
Yeah, I actually didn't know they were doing that there.
Yeah. Yes.
That's cool.
Yeah, it's great. I don't know if other PPS high schools are doing that or not, but he's like our principal's kind of a disciplinarian, so he's not the most popular with the kids, but I think he's fantastic.
That's cool.
So
I always ask almost everyone here about college, but I'm curious, like, do you feel like, I wrote down, is there like an across the board devaluing of education in general, or do you see college as better than high school or any of these public schools? And
I mean, it probably depends on where you go to college. I would say, again, my oldest is a junior at Northeastern. She's a biochemistry major, so like it's hard. I mean,
yeah.
it's real.
Right.
It's real school. I don't think
Rigorous,
there's. Yes, it's very rigorous. There aren't a lot. This is again where I don't think high school is preparing kids for things, because there's not a lot of wiggle room. Like if you don't go to lab, like you get an F. Like
it's like you got
people get
deadlines
Fs at Northeastern. Like
Yeah.
nobody saves you. Like you got an F, that's an F. You have to retake that class. So I think in some of the state schools, I think there's less rigor than there was like when I went. But I'm really of the mind that like not everybody needs to go to college. I mean, it just depends on what you want to do. There's plenty of great careers that you can have that don't require going to college. And I think going to college, if you don't know why you're going to college, is a bad idea given how expensive it is.
Yeah.
So,
Okay.
yeah.
Yeah. So can we talk about your Northwest story? How do you find Portland? Are you from here originally?
I grew up in Southern Oregon.
Oh,
so
me
I
too.
went to Roseburg, proud graduate of Roseburg High School.
Yeah.
So that was not, my parents were in the Forest Service, so which was weird.
Okay.
But
Well, it's all timber down there.
yeah, all during the whole spotted owl thing. That's when I grew up, so it was kind of interesting. But I was like, I mean, now I think everybody thinks I'm a Republican, but like I was a bleeding heart liberal growing up in Southern Oregon.
That's
so.
exactly my story.
Really?
Yeah.
Where did you grow up?
Grants Pass.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. Yeah, total same. Although Grants Pass had that weird little hippie.
Well, it's like
There was a little
you'd
hippie
escape to
underground going on
Ashland.
there. Yeah.
That's what I would do
Or
sometimes.
like Cave Junction
Yeah.
or whatever.
But I
like,
was I was very like anti. I had like Pink Floyd stuff on my door and when I was in high school and all that stuff, and I was just like,
Yeah.
you're the rebel in town, or
Yeah, I was one of the few. I mean, I was a bleeding heart liberal in high school. So, and then I went to U of O. I mean, I just couldn't get out of Roseburg fast enough.
Yeah.
So I went to U of O, and then I went to law school at Lewis and Clark. That's how I got here. So I've been here since 95.
Okay, that's been a while.
So,
yeah.
Met my husband at law school. He grew up out in Beaverton, so he graduated from Sunset. And yeah, we've been here ever since. So
Well, Sunset. I went to one. I don't even want to admit this, but I filmed one high school football game there for KGW, and I never wanted to do it again. It's like, I like football, but I
Why
don't
is
like
that?
filming it. One, it's like I don't care about high school level.
Okay, sure.
But the other thing that you're carrying like a 40-pound camera up and down the sideline the whole game, and you're by yourself, and
It's a
just
lot
like,
of physical work.
yeah.
And then they like come back to the station because it's all for Friday night flights, they call it.
Yes,
because KGW
right.
got a helicopter and all this stuff, but you'd have to like hustle back, cut the highlights, and.
Did you get to go in the helicopter?
No, I never went in the helicopter. No.
You should at
They
least get to
eventually
go in the
stopped
helicopter.
letting him do it. I don't know if you know Joe Becker, but when he was there, he would land and like they'd give him like hot dog from the food stand and stuff. But I think for safety reasons, they stopped letting him land on the field. Which
I
seems
love that,
smart,
though.
You know?
I
Yeah,
remember landing on the
Yeah.
field. Yes,
Yeah.
but yeah, what if somebody ran out? Like
Yeah.
that could be terrible. Yeah,
Um,
that's so interesting. Yeah.
What's your absolute favorite thing and least favorite thing about the Northwest?
Oh my gosh. I mean, probably like the natural beauty. I mean,
Hmm.
it's just every time I go, I have my family in Colorado or whatever, but that feeling when you fly home and you're like the green just sort of like
Appreciate
it's
it
so serene,
again.
it's so beautiful, you know. I mean, and then Portland from like 98 to maybe 2010. I
Yeah.
mean, it was an awesome place to live.
Yep.
Yep,
I mean,
it
those
was.
days where it was like safe and clean, but like there
Yep.
was so much going on. There was such great music. There were so many awesome restaurants. Like that period was, and by and large, until the last maybe 5 years, like it was a great place to raise kids. Like
Hmm.
it was
Yeah.
really a great place to raise kids. I enjoyed like my kids like all through elementary school, and there were things to do. And in fact, I'm just driving down here. We went to music together in some
Yeah.
like church
We
on
did that
Shaw.
too. Yeah.
Mm.
So it was, it was full of like, and it was like full of like super nice people. It definitely feels different to me now, but just like what you said, there's just so many fewer people out. Like every time I go
Yeah.
out on a weekend, like the light was downtown last weekend. I didn't go to it, but driving like when the Light Festival was on, and I was like so happy to see all these people out. I was like, oh my God, is it coming back? Like
Yeah.
it makes me so happy when I see people out
Yeah.
again. So I do think it is better than it was. I think that's one of the things we lose in this sort of, we can all get in this like doom spiral about Portland, but Portland right now is better than Portland in 2021.
Oh,
It
absolutely.
was.
Yeah.
It's better. We're
Yeah.
getting better slowly. But, I was running the other day and I was like, gosh, that was a homeless camp for like a year and a half right off my
Yeah.
freeway exit.
Yeah.
And somebody got there the other day and they were gone in a week. That didn't happen. So we have a long way to go. And I don't know how charter reform's gonna I'm worried about
Yeah.
charter
Yeah.
reform for sure, but I do feel like we can be back to what we were if people are dedicated enough to make it
Mhm.
happen.
Seems like the summers up here are always a little more busy too. Like you see more of that activity.
Yeah.
So that's at least nice in the summer.
Yeah,
But,
we have amazing summers.
yeah. Is there anything bugging you right now that you want to bring up or talk about?
Oh,
I mean, I know we just talked about a lot of that.
Yeah, I mean, I'm pretty focused on school stuff, although I don't know what all those answers are, but like I guess we were saying before we went on the air that like I'm struck with the article that was in the Oregonian today by Julia Silverman
Okay.
about our test scores, our failure to use our COVID money well for the things that mattered. And it's just the complete like absence of the Oregon Department of Education as to anything. Like she's quoted, the head is quoted in the article, and she's just like, I mean, she just says some nothing statement about like, oh, well, we need to work on better curriculum. It's like, what are you like, that's your job. Why haven't you done that? Like are you talking about someone else? Like it's
Right.
your job. What are you doing? Instead, you guys published some 100-page thing about how to put menstrual products in men's bathrooms. It's just like,
which we do need.
what are we focused on?
I'm just kidding.
Like, what are we focused on?
Yeah.
And it's really frustrating to see it sort of just keeps going. And there's like no urgency to what's happening to our educational system in this state. And and they spend so much money. ODE has a huge budget. They spend tons of money and they have absolutely nothing to show for it. This isn't rocket science. We know how to teach kids how to read and do math.
Do you know where this is going? Because anytime another piece of the narrative about schools is, well, they don't have any money. They don't have any money. We don't spend enough per student. They cap property
Not true.
taxes, and property taxes go to schools. But if you look at the national amount we spend per student, it's not low.
No, we're average.
So where is the money going?
Yeah, I was gonna ask you that.
I mean, if teachers are really buying their own Scotch tape and staplers, where is do we know where the money's going?
There is more money. I was actually looking this right before we came. So
Yeah.
there was
I saw you post about it. That's why I was gonna.
Yeah, like $1 billion. Then I was like, well, I should go look at the math. So we increased educational spending from the last biennium, the 19 to 21, to the 21 to 23 by $1 billion. 10%.
Billion with a B. Okay.
State funding increased by 10%. So I think part of it is it's going to PERS, right?
Oh, well,
that
okay,
PERS
that's the elephant.
suck.
That's so dumb. I mean, we made the front page of the New York Times a maybe 2 decades ago because of PERS. Yes,
Right.
no, you're exactly
So
right.
PERS
PERS tier 1.
That's going to keep
That is
sucking
yes.
for a while.
And the New York Times talked about that, and
until-
they said we will be devastated until not just the PERS tier 1 recipients die, but their beneficiaries.
Yes.
And how much longer? That's like 20 more
It
years
well,
or
it was.
something?
I mean, I remember reading it and just thinking, I mean,
They didn't
my
get
kids are screwed.
Yeah, they didn't get rid of tier 1 until at least the 90s.
Yeah, I
want to say
remember
late 90s.
when they finally changed that. It
Yeah.
was a while, but-
So, I mean, that's part of it.
That's right.
Admin has
I
grown.
spaced it.
Outside contracts have grown, and I guess, you know, I mean, this is unpopular, but like we have all these like little like at Portland we have the Center for Black Student Excellence. Like, I'm not against Black student excellence, but it's less than 10% of our population, and I don't know how much money we're throwing at this program. So I think there's just a lot of, like, if you go to PPS and there's a link you can click on the departments, there's like 30 departments at PPS. They all have a web page, they all have a director, they all have a and it's just, I mean, some of it's like there's like 3 things that you would call like equity, but there's like 3 different departments that I would say all fall, you know, into that. And
yet we're serving those. We're serving
we're not doing any better.
Our poor and our minority students terribly.
Right. Like, we've been doing all
really
of that
badly
for years, and it's not getting any better.
We've never improved it.
Because what we really need to do is just teach kids like how to read and how to do math. And like, but it's a lot like running the city. Like, somebody should run for mayor and say, like, all I'm going to do is fix the streets and make sure that our parks get maintained. I'm not going to do any
like
of
pick
this.
2 things.
I'm going to just,
you
I'm
can
gonna,
actually
like,
execute on.
Trains run on time kind of stuff. Like, just, that's all I'm going to do. I think it'd be fascinating. I think people might really vote. And that's what we need at schools. Cut all of this crap and just focus on like reading, math, science. Like, just go back to the basics that we're not doing. We're spending so much money because it's not sexy to be like, we're teaching kids to read. Like, oh, we've done this thing and that's like the city too, right? We have to come up with all these crazy ideas, or we're going to have the Office of Neighborhood Involvement, and we're going to do, it's like, no, just like, basics. But it's not sexy to run on that. So I think it doesn't happen. But I mean, we're just wasting a lot of money on things that don't directly impact student outcome.
Yeah. I'm glad you brought that up, because I saw your post this morning and I was going to ask about, because people always just seem to, what I wrote down was, does funding ever end? Because it just seems like people like, they need more money. They need more money.
That is
like,
the
they
solution
have a lot
to
of
everything
money
around here. We just need more. We need more taxes. We need more money. We
spend $12 billion on schools in the state. $12 billion. And it's just like, I asked Andrew Scott the other day, because he's such a financial guy. He's on the board, but he's like he's the chief financial officer of Metro. So he's like super smart. And I was like, and he's like, we have to go to Salem and get more money. And I was like, it's very hard to find apples to apples comparisons with other states, because what do you count? And he admitted we're average in spending and average in outcome. It's like, okay, well.
So what was his answer to where that money? I mean, is he basically saying we need more money because it does go to all this bloat, and so we need more to go to the math and the reading because we're just teachers. Pushing it? Yeah.
If the teachers, like, we want our teachers to be well paid, we want to recruit good teachers, we need more money if that's what we're supposed to do.
But then if we want to recruit teachers, and we're not talking about laterals, then we also need to change this union policy where we're dragging the young teachers.
Yeah. I mean, I think
and we're not supporting our younger teachers.
But I also think that we need to, what got lost in the strike is talking about things like PERS. Like, even tier 3 is still very rich compared to like Washington.
Yeah, that's right.
And we just don't, it never even gets factored into the conversation. It's just like salary. It's like, let's talk about what the fully loaded looks like. It's not bad. Most people would give their right arm for what teachers, I mean, they wouldn't, because they could be teachers, I guess, but it's not a bad job. It's like, in terms of what you make, in terms of, you know, how many of us have a defined benefit plan, which is what they get. You get paid for the rest of your life once you retire. After 30 years. Like, you can retire at
That's right. And they do.
Or
and
60.
They do. Watch them. Yeah. They do.
I mean, a lot of people would. That would be huge. The rest of us are trying to scrape together our 401k contributions, and like, am I going to have enough?
So many people have no 401k or nothing.
That's right.
And,
nothing.
That's right.
I'm glad you brought the PERS thing up, because I think when people hear, oh, we're investing another $1 billion in our schools, they think it's going to the classroom. But I mean, and I guess you could say indirectly it's going to people's retirement, which helps that. But I
some of
mean,
it's
that is ridiculous if all that's just
and
most of it's
some
for
of it's
PERS.
people who are long retired,
Yeah.
And they're
so
making, I mean, the tier 1 people, it's astounding. They had a guaranteed 8% return
Yeah.
on their
The
investment,
old PERS
no
was
matter what
insane.
the market
Insane.
It was
did.
insane, yeah.
yeah.
So a lot, I mean, I know some of those people,
Mhm.
they're making way more money than they ever made working.
Yeah.
Way more.
Yeah. It's
Like
crazy.
retirement's when the remodel started.
Mhm.
Retirement's when the cruises started. Retirement's when the international travel
Yeah.
started. Like it was just, I mean, most people are like living on like you said, like living on a fixed income and trying to figure out a gas budget. And suddenly there's this windfall of cash with these 8%ers.
And that unfundedness is coming in greater portions out
Yeah.
of each budgetary year. So like PERS is underfunded, and so
Right.
each
That's
year
right.
there's like more money
'Cause there's
that's
not
having
enough
to
money.
come out of the operating budget to
Oregon is a poor
fill
state.
that
It's a
hole.
poor state.
Yeah, it's
Yeah, I
Yeah.
just you totally just
nobody talks
rekindled
about
my
No, nobody talks about
I forgot about PERS. Yeah, and like it was probably, I don't know, I want to say one of the best retirement things in the country as
Oh,
far as
man.
what you get, but
yeah.
yeah, that's siphoning
It's
a lot of that money.
Even tier 3 is, and I say that as a spouse of someone who's in tier 3. I mean, I will say, like, it is an amazing thing when we think about our retirement to know, well, whatever else happens, we're going to get a check from the government every single month for the rest
Yeah.
of our lives.
Mhm.
That is such a
But
privilege.
it's
And the teachers don't even they're like entitled to it. Like I
Yeah.
can say, like, my husband works hard, but like that is an incredible privilege that we so appreciate. And like when we talk about
And
what
that the
teachers
rest of us
make,
pay for.
yeah. And when we talk about what teachers make, let's talk about this thing that they get that very few other people get. Although like everybody in the government gets it, so
yeah, any
people
state
that do a lot less
employee.
good things than teachers.
Well, and that's what the New York Times was talking about. Like they were actually saying, the people that are really crushing this state are OHSU admins that are
Yes.
getting the 8%
yeah.
and the football coaches.
I know it's
Mhm.
crazy.
And it is absolutely bankrupting. I mean, for a period of time, there was discussion about whether this state would just be completely bankrupt.
Mhm.
From PERS.
Yes,
Yeah.
from PERS.
Yeah.
Because if you look at the average salary of an average Oregonian, it's bizarrely low.
Yeah.
It is strange. We really are a poor state.
Yeah.
And you look at what we were funding. I mean, some of these people, it's $1 million guaranteed a year, more than that. It was wild. And then when you look at, it's not only them, then it's the beneficiary. It's
Mhm.
like,
I
well,
remember-
yeah, we're screwed.
I don't know if this is the story you're talking about, the New York Times, but I remember one big story and they're like, yeah, we're going to be paying this off for decades to
that's
try to
right.
get out of this. And
Yeah. Yeah.
But to me, it's also I'm just glad you brought it up because it's an important distinction to separate. This is funding retirement of people that aren't even helping the
yeah.
education system anymore.
Right.
And then the other money is for the actual classroom.
Right.
Right.
I just had this thing this last week. I was telling people, somebody at work was like, hey, you got to pay your arts tax. And I was telling them, you know what blew my
I just
mind
got
is
that
to
email.
find out that money does not really go directly to schools as far as I know, right? Like we talked about that.
Well, they get an artist in residence. I
Yeah.
mean, it might go to schools, but it goes to like they pay like a contractor to come in and teach them how to weave for a week or
it's
something.
like 1 FTE per 700 kids, I think is
Yeah.
the number.
Wow.
Yeah. Yeah.
So basically an entire school.
Yeah, like a
kid,
class
yeah.
might have somebody come in and teach them how to weave
and I think it's
for
just
a week.
K8.
That's it.
I don't think
Okay,
there's
I think it is
don't-
K8.
I think it's K8. I don't think there's any art tax money that goes to high schools. I
Wow.
think it's just the
And most of it doesn't. I don't think most of it goes to schools at all. It goes to like people who write in
right.
for
It's
a
only
grant.
part of the art
Yeah, and that's
tax.
what I said. It's like grants and like artists in residence.
Mhm.
And then I believe a lot of it used to go to RAC before that kind of developed.
Yeah,
I
I don't know
think.
where that goes now.
but anyway.
Yeah, no, it's just
I
it's
just think there's a lot of that, like, hey, it sounds good, we're helping this, and you're like, are you really?
Everybody
like, is that
thinks
where
it goes to like the Symphony of the Art Museum,
Yeah.
and it doesn't.
Yeah.
No, I mean,
Not a penny.
Preschool
Not a
for,
penny.
for all is the like poster child for that.
Oh,
Sounds
yeah.
great, but we're not actually doing anything with
right.
it.
And that's kind of ongoing now,
It's
right?
just
Yeah.
absolutely
Yeah,
insane.
and
Makes
they
me
wanna
so
raise
crazy.
it.
And
wanna
yeah,
raise it.
and it doesn't have to be like, it would be so easy to operate in a more functional way that actually helped people. But the county doesn't think that poor people can pick their own damn preschool. So they have to like go in and like certify it and make sure it does all these things. And all of that is just like paying county bureaucrats. Like there's like tons of people that work for the county that are administering this program that is like serving 700 kids. Like, just give every poor family a freaking voucher to pick their own preschool.
Make it like a Pell Grant.
Right. They're perfectly capable of picking their own preschool. They don't need the county to tell them what's qualified or not. It's just like, and how many kids, well, you figure this all out, aren't getting preschool? How many families are struggling childcare?
Most.
So hard.
The answer's most.
Like,
we know.
I mean, as a professional, childcare was crippling.
Yes, it is. It is.
I mean, it was crippling. I can't imagine.
I remember
what it's
counting
like.
down the days, just thinking, when can we be done?
When we had 2 in daycare, I mean, my God, it was more than our mortgage.
Yep.
And like, poor families need childcare so bad. They need preschool
they can't
so bad.
afford
And
2
it's
mortgages.
just sitting in coffers, or do both. Like, while we're trying to get all these preschools built up, we're going to do
something.
vouchers. Yeah.
Well, and if you look at their standards, I mean, it's just
it's preschool. They just need to play
not
and be
even
supervised.
really preschool. That's the best part. If you look at the county standards, they're not anything that I would consider. Yes, it's like daycare. They're not even things I would consider a standard.
Right.
And then this study a peer-reviewed study out of Tennessee came out relatively recently that even NPR had to choke on themselves to report on, that said we'd actually do better. It's the only peer-reviewed study about preschool. It is randomized control trial, as scientific as you can get. We would do better just letting them play.
Right.
They actually
That's
did worse.
what kids need.
They actually
at
did
that
worse.
age. Mm-hmm. Yeah, no, you're not supposed to like, right. There's tons
And
of
even
evidence
NPR was like,
on the value of play.
It was so fun to read that article because they were just tripping over themselves trying to, you could tell that the author was probably just rubbing their forehead throughout the entire thing, like figuring out. And then they kept coming back to, there's really no other way to say it. I'm just going to say it again. Here's this data. And they talked to everybody they could to try to spin it any way they could. And it was the same answer over and over again. Like, yeah, we're just really shocked. And I guess, maybe we need another study was what they were coming up with. But, but even those people admitted this is the most scientific thing that we have. And there is plenty of data about play.
Yeah. Tons.
And about
and then
unstructured
circle back
play.
to the behavior issue, right? Part of the problem is these kids, and now we've got kids that were like locked at home in COVID when they were little. They don't have social skills. And that's what you need first. And then the other stuff can come.
We closed the playgrounds.
Yeah.
We closed the Rose Garden. We closed the beaches. Where could they go?
Are so hovery. They're very hovery. It's like, let your kids play. Just let them figure it out. Yeah, they might fall down. They'll be okay.
Parenting.
Yeah, so much helicopter parenting. It's crazy.
All right, I have 2 goofy questions. One of them, but I'm adding another one. When you park, maybe you just did this now.
Mm-hmm.
Do you pull in or do you back in?
Pull in if I can. Yeah, unless you're like parallel parking and you have to like fully parallel park.
Okay.
Definitely.
What about you?
Always pull in.
Always try to back in.
Oh, you do? Okay.
Yeah, I just find it more efficient to
get out.
When I need to leave, I really need to leave. It seems like, I don't know why. Maybe I manage my time well getting there and then poorly leaving. That might be part of my issue. But I just need to go. And so I like being able to just pull forward. Yeah.
Interesting.
Okay. Mm-hmm.
Yeah. I never back in.
Last week, Tara was telling me all men back in. And I was like, I don't know what that's about. But
I've been told I have an abundance of testosterone and that may be part of it.
I've mostly pulled in, but I've been recently backing in. And I don't know why, but.
Now I want to try it. I always pull in.
It is true. You can take out, like when I leave work, I'm just like, I'm out of here. Like,
yeah.
I love it.
It's like a little TV thing, right? Like, yeah. Okay.
And my other one is the peanut butter. Are you crunchy or smooth peanut butter person, or maybe you don't like it at all?
I bought crunchy the other day and I thought of you. I did. And I bought Lisa's.
Did you buy it?
Well, I had already purchased it and then I hadn't tried it for a while. And then I bought it again because Lisa Schroeder from Mothers was on when Andy kindly asked me to co-host, and she was talking about the new season's salted roasted. And I was reminded of that. And so I went to the grocery store and I bought it. And it is good. And then I also remembered why I don't buy it anymore, because it has such an abundance of oil on the top that it is one of the messiest things.
That's why I saw it
in the world
on the shelf, and I was about to buy it, and I love Lisa to
every time I dipped into it, I'm like, you know what, forget it. I finally just threw it away.
Yeah, I don't like anything that has the oil on the top.
I'm not
But that one has so much.
Yeah. There's like this much,
yeah.
It's like half oil.
I saw that and I was like, this is.
You saw it coming.
And I'm sorry, Lisa, but I was like, I'm not a stirrer. I don't stir the
delicious.
peanut butter.
Don't stir the peanut butter. No.
You can't. They don't give you
Yes.
enough room.
Right,
And so
and
you've
then
got
it-
it in the
and it
sink and you're
misses.
elbow deep in
Yeah,
this
it's
thing. And it's
not.
just like,
And then you get it all over the side of the container. Then you have to wash it, but it never.
And that's what happened. And then
It
I
never
checked it.
really feels clean. Yeah, no, I am personally crunchy, but like everyone else in my family is smooth. So yeah, smooth
Nice. Well,
peanut butter.
I'm crunchy too, so I always
Yeah.
liked more crunchy people. So,
Yeah, I don't eat like the kids eat more, or like my daughter eats more peanut butter than I do. So I buy
Yeah.
what she likes, but I don't know. Maybe we should
Alright,
try
great.
crunchy.
Well, my team's growing, so. Yeah, is there anything else you want to talk about before we wrap it
No,
up here?
this was fun. It's always fun to talk to you, but it was
it's fun to
really
talk
thanks
to
for
you too.
having me on. This
Yeah,
was
absolutely.
fun.
Always
Yeah.
welcome back. Maybe we'll do another education thing in the future. So.
Yeah.